Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. And for this HO scale product review, we're going to be taking a look at this Athearn 85-foot heavyweight chair car. Now this car, as you can plainly see, is lettered for the mighty Southern Pacific Railroad. If you've been watching this channel for a while, or those of you that watch the channel that know me in real life, you know I am a hardcore SP guy. Love the Southern Pacific. It's my absolute favorite railroad. So these cars, when they were brand new, speaking for the model, were originally offered as kit cars. I picked up 3 of these Southern Pacific chair cars, each with different road numbers, from the 2024 Greater Houston Train Show in Pasadena, Texas. Excuse me. I was able to scoop these guys up for $5 a pop. They were already assembled, came with boxes and everything, and a couple of them needed couplers, but that was really it. So they were essentially ready to go. Originally manufactured as kit cars, but essentially ready to go, and have been great. If you've been watching the channel for a while and you've seen any of the Stars Hollow operations videos, then you have seen these guys running around on the railroad. These cars handle the 18-inch radius curves on the Stars Hollow Railroad with ease. And aside from changing out a couple of couplers, I haven't really had to do anything to these cars. Side note, I did accidentally drop test one of these. It survived about a 4.5-foot fall onto hard concrete. The only thing I had to do was re-glue a set of steps back into place, and I believe it was actually this car that got drop tested. I don't normally drop test stuff, certainly not intentionally, but you know, it definitely survived. So the prototype of this car was a early 1900s design. These types of cars were used all the way up until the end of the passenger era on the Southern Pacific Railroad. Towards the end, in the late 40s to mid 50s, these cars started going through modernization and getting retrofitted with new steam lines, new power and air conditioning, new lighting. When these cars were originally delivered, they were steam powered, so all of the air conditioning, all of the heating and the lights and everything were powered with steam supplied from the locomotive. These cars do not have a detailed interior. It is just a plain, flat, and if I actually shined the camera into the interior of the car where you could see real good, all you'd see is just a flat floor and the top of the weight. The car is weighted appropriately. It's pretty close to NMRA specs, more than heavy enough to handle the switches on the railroad, these Bachmann Easy Track switches, which you and I know, if you've been in the hobby for a minute, are not the greatest, which is specifically, well, that's half the reason I went with Easy Track switches. The other half was the majority of what I already had on hand for HO scale was Easy Track. The lettering and decaling on the car is very nicely done. Everything is legible. I apologize for the glare, but this additional lighting I'm throwing on the car is really the only way you're going to be able to see the details on the trucks. The car features wonderful rivet detailing along the body. You have these storage compartments down here. The trucks are a 3-axle The trucks are nicely detailed plastic 3-axle trucks, appropriate for a generic passenger car truck. The steps are one piece on each corner of the car and cast onto the body of the car. You do have these cast on grab irons here on adjacent each door. In the appropriate spot, you see this kind of stained glass looking window. That is a restroom. There's one on the other side as well, so they are in the appropriate spot. This car, when manufactured new, came with the god-awful horn hook couplers, but it has since been converted to knuckle couplers. Now, the knuckle couplers came with the car. The cars were already equipped with knuckle couplers, so that was one thing I didn't have to do. Looking at the underside of the car, you can see there's some scant underframe detailing. There's not really a whole lot going on with regard to detailing. You can see these offset metal and plastic wheels. That allows for, making it a little bit easier to add interior lighting to the car if you so choose. This is, as I said, an 85-foot passenger car, and typically an 85-foot passenger car in HO scale would not be able to negotiate curvature as tight as 18-inch radius without a lot of modification. The reason why these older Athearn Blue Box passenger cars are able to do that, even with their rather excessive length, speaking in terms of 18-inch radius, is because they have truck-mounted couplers rather than body-mounted couplers. If these things had body-mounted couplers, the amount of sway that would, lateral movement that would be needed to allow the car to A, negotiate an 18-inch radius curve, and B, stay coupled to other equipment would be absolutely ridiculous. The coupler box would have to have sway pretty much from step to step for a body-mounted coupler, and or have a very long drawbar, unrealistically long for a passenger car. So unfortunately, looking at the B end of the car, pretty much all the passenger cars that I got at that show were missing the handbrake wheel. I think one, maybe two still have them, but none of the chair cars have them. This is where it would be, the handbrake wheel. And you can see a cast-on chain, brake chain here. You can see this grill assembly here. Actually, no, that's just a regular panel. My apologies. In the glare from the lighting, it looked like a grill. Lots of nice rivet detailing, simulating the individual body panels on the end of the car. A nice shot of the coupler there. And as I said, you can see clear through the car, the top of the weight. There is nothing going on inside the car. There's no interior detail. Given that there's no interior detail, I personally would have loved to have seen an actual door here in this door frame, but oh well. For $5 a car, and the cars were already assembled and ready to go, I can't complain too terribly much. Finally, looking at the roof, you can see nice smooth plastic. You have the individual panels of the roof, and you have these larger panels here on the closer to the car body sides, along the clerestory. If I missaid that, I tried. Not really a whole lot going on the roof, but still a great looking model. Performs very well. There's one or two of these cars that occasionally will give me fits when shoving through the switches, one or two switches on facing point moves. But other than that, great cars. They look great, they run great, and they're a fantastic addition to the Stars Hollow Railroad. One final caveat. The reason that I got these cars was because the wife wanted to have a passenger train on the railroad, because the very first building kit she ever built was a little lifelike station kit that came with the lifelike train set that started all of this. So she wanted to have a passenger train on the railroad. Given this railroad is meant to model late 80s to early 90s, that meant having to be either a business train, which does not run that often, and certainly not on a secondary main line like the Stars Hollow Railroad is intended to model, or a tourist railroad, a vintage railroad, which would be much more likely, given that the Southern Pacific was a little bit more friendly towards outside steam operators than Union Pacific is, and it was the 1980s to early 90s, so liability and all that other stuff wasn't as high and restrictive as it is nowadays. And truth be told, I'm really partial to steam locomotives myself, so this gave me a chance to run steam locomotives and incorporate the operation of steam locomotives on a semi-regular basis on the railroad when it's supposed to be set in the late 80s to early 90s. Now, I have all three of the passenger cars, the chair cars, on the railroad. We will throw them together with a train and run them around the railroad with the Athearn SP Daylight FP7A.